Our brains are wired in a certain way. In order for a man to feel attracted to a woman, for example, there needs to be a tiny bit of pursuit. In order for a woman to be attracted to a man, there needs to be a slight elevation of status. So women are actually less intelligent at dating than men are, because at least men have some idea. But when I ask women the question, okay, what do you think a man wants or needs from you? They're like, I don't know. They try and give me some ideas, and usually they're way off the mark. Dating and relationships actually require skill, and no one teaches us. The anxious person always comes to me, oh, things seem to be going really well. We're in our third or fourth date. I don't know what happened. I feel like I've done something wrong. Something's gone wrong. They always make it about them, that they've done something. See, I'm telling every woman out there, this is the secret. You need this one line for your entire relationship and you will be okay.
Hey guys, welcome back to the show. Just a quick note from me to say thank you so much for choosing to tune in to watch today's episode. I've checked the stats recently and I was blown away to see that 93.6% of you who choose to tune in and watch these videos aren't already subscribed to the channel. Now, if you're watching these videos because you're looking to level up in your life and make positive changes, it starts by changing your environment and what you consume. So make sure that you're subscribed to this channel so that you're consuming some incredible, inspirational, and empowering content and stories that will help you make positive changes in your life. Enjoy today's episode and stay visionary. Welcome back to the show, guys. My guest today has amassed over 1 million followers across social media. He's a radio presenter and a holistic love coach. He's a public speaker who's passionate about bringing back real conversation and helping others find love. Amit Sodha, aka the Love Doctor, welcome to the show.
It's a pleasure to be here, man. Thank you so much for having me. Honestly, it was a real honor to be invited on your podcast. You've had some incredible guests recently.
It's been, do you know what? It has been an amazing experience just getting to know people on a real personal level and having them share their stories. And I'm really happy to just have you as part of that roster. So let's start off with who Amit was before the Love Doctor, before the radio presenter. Talk to us about what that person had to go through to get to who you are today.
Oh, that's a deep one. That's a very deep question.
We don't start off half-hearted. We go straight in.
You do go straight in. I'll take a little bit of a step back, actually, because where everything changed for me was at the age of 15. So probably up until that point, I was a normal kid, just like any other. But for some reason, I just dove headfirst into this spiritual organization. And that kind of set the tone for the rest of my life. At the age of 15, and prior to that, I was a typical kid, probably got into a little bit of smoking, a little bit of drinking, hanging out with probably the wrong crowds, doing all of that kind of stuff. So I could easily have headed down that path. But maybe it was providence. Maybe it was just very timely that I ended up falling into this spiritual organization. And so that set me on a completely different path. It was a lifestyle of waking up at 4 a.m, no drinking, living a very healthy lifestyle.
What was the name
meditation?
of this?
So it's Brahma Kumaris.
Okay.
So I was there from the age of 15, and very quickly I excelled and ended up became a meditation teacher for adults. So imagine walking into a room like this. You're signed up for a meditation class, and you're walking in and there's a 15-year-old teacher there. So that was kind of like my world at that point. And then it led to me completely losing any interest in school. I went very deep into the spirituality, and maybe there was a part of me that wasn't ready for it, because what happened was when I was going so deep into meditation, I'd come back into this world and feel like I wasn't part of it anymore. So I actually ended up getting almost very depressed, and made me want to almost end my life in this world, because I just felt there was so much more elsewhere. So for the whole period of time, I was very spiritual. I was coaching people, but the area of life that I truly just was not very good at was dating. In fact, I was awful at it. If there was such a thing as a professional friend zone artist, I probably would have been like the market world leader in that field. But I hated it. I hated that I just kept getting rejected, always the friend, the brother, the confidant, the person people wanted to come to tell me all about their problems. All these, like the scenario I like to paint is the truth, but it was just so painful when I think about it, was the idea that there's all these women who come to me with their problems. They're talking and bitching about the guys they're going out with. And there's me screaming inside my head thinking, I'm not like that. Choose me, right? But I didn't know how to court them. I didn't know how to do the dating thing because there is a science behind it. There is a methodology that no one ever teaches us. Did anyone have a serious conversation with you about dating?
Absolutely not.
Very few do, and I think it's probably worse in South Asian culture, but it's probably pretty bad across the board. At least our white counterparts. Like I've got a neighbor, and they got 3 generations in the house: the grandmother, the parents, and the 2 kids. And at least in that household, the way I imagine it, and the way I imagine it with our sort of English counterparts, is that at least maybe the grandmother, I can imagine her telling the grandkids, that, when I was a young girl, your granddad wooed me this way, that way kind of thing. But in our South Asian culture, you would never really hear that. You would hear more about maybe there was an introduction and we just end up, the first person we met, got married to, and, built a life with, and that's all we knew. But actually, dating and relationships actually require skill, and no one teaches us. So 2008, I'd had enough. I was like, I can't stand this pain anymore. I need to learn this subject. So I went on a whole journey. I started reading every book, every article, downloading every bootleg video and DVD series that I could find about the subject, anything that I could absorb. I started learning and putting it into practice. And then after a while, things started to change and I started to get a little bit better. Like, I went from all these rejections and I got my first yes off a pretty girl. And I was like, oh, okay. And you read all the material and you just don't expect it to work. And then the first time it happens, a light bulb goes off and you're like, oh, this is how it's supposed to work. And so I just started to do more and more and more till I got to a point where I could ask out pretty much everyone. It's not hyperbole for me to say that if I saw at the time, when Priyanka Chopra was probably, Miss World or something like that, if I'd seen her, I would have had the confidence to go up to her and say to her, let's go out for a coffee. And that's not hyperbole. I felt that level of confidence that I could do that with anyone. And like I said, I was the total opposite of that. So I want to be the epitome, the proof to everyone, whether it's a guy or girl, that you can learn this skill, you can get better at dating. It's not something that we just do by meeting people and asking the same rote, routine questions to. That's not how it works. There is, our brains are wired in a certain way. We've got these, 100,000-year-old approximately, year old brains that are wired in a certain way. In order for a man to feel attracted to a woman, for example, there needs to be a tiny bit of pursuit. In order for a woman to be attracted to a man, there needs to be a slight elevation of status, for example. There's other things as well. But if you don't understand that, most people barrel in doing completely the wrong things, right? What do you do? Where are you from? Asking really boring questions. In a very poor state, a typical example is this, you ask someone, okay, what do you do for a living? And what's the typical answer in the dating world? Oh yeah, just working IT is really boring, right? Again, is that, going to be seductive in any way? Is anyone actually going to feel attracted to that? Of course
I don't
not.
think I've ever witnessed that as a seduction technique.
I have.
Oh, have you?
Yes, I have, genuinely. I've seen it all at this point. And it's not to make fun of the people who are in that situation. It just goes down to the truth that no one's taught them. And if you don't have the impetus to go and learn this subject, then you're never going to know any better as well. You're going to assume that our only point of reference is movies and Bollywood and what we see on the screen, and thinking that maybe just if I wait long enough, something will just happen, or serendipity will take its natural course. But you don't realize you can create serendipity. You can create this beautiful chance encounters and so much more. So that's kind of where it came from. And then I thought to myself, I don't want to hoard all this knowledge. I want to teach people. So once I got good at it, I actually met someone as well, became my fiance. That relationship ended, and then I had to sort of redo it all over again. And then I met my wife, in 2015, and then the rest is history. And I've been coaching hundreds and thousands of people at this point and teaching them how easy it can be.
There are so many things that you said there that I need to get deeper and deeper into. But what seems consistent from that pivotal moment when you were 15 to what you do present day is teaching. And it started off when you were 15, when you were teaching meditation.
Yeah.
That to me, I was very fortunate enough to learn how to meditate when I was 12 or 13 years old. But I think back then I was too much of a, to put it bluntly, just an arrogant shit to really pay attention to what was being taught to me. And now I love meditation. So what made you want to teach meditation at 15? And how long were you practicing for before you started teaching others?
Literally less than 6 months. And so I was literally learning why I got into it, why I enjoyed it. I couldn't tell you, but I just did. I guess as a youngster, as a young man, and I think this is still prevalent in society as a whole today, what young men need, which is seriously lacking right now, is direction, discipline, role models. And this is why young men out there are so disillusioned because what do most male role models come in the form of in this day and age? You've got, Andrew Tate is obviously the most obvious recent one. Other characters like that suddenly men have latched onto. What do they find attractive about him as a person? It's the discipline, it's the certainty, it's the fact that he has wisdom and knowledge, right? Okay, consider it right or wrong, it doesn't matter. He's putting people on a path with clarity, so it's appealing to them. And I guess I was no different at 15. I needed something. We all do, I think. And I was just lucky to find something that was setting me down a path that's been a foundation of my life since that first day. And so thankfully, I just latched onto it. I enjoyed it. There was great people there that I could learn from, understand, study. I became very insanely curious. Like they had a senior brother there called Jagdish Bai, who's very into he's a physicist as well. So like I got really heavily into physics and understanding the origins of our universe, our creation, where we come from, how light travels through the universe, how everything, you name it, what the soul is made of, vibration, superstring theory, faster than light travel. I literally delved into everything that you can possibly imagine. I was just had an insatiable appetite for learning. Maybe it brought it out of me. I don't know, but it just started from there. But you're right. It's funny you used the word teacher and you picked up on that because actually at that age, what I wanted to do, I had two goals, right? I had one weird one, which was being an aeronautical engineer. Don't know where that came from.
Why
No
not?
idea. Maybe it was just flight appealed to me. I'm not sure. Second thing was being a teacher. That was almost my fallback career. If the engineering didn't work out, I'd be a teacher.
Well, I managed to create that part
Yeah.
quite successfully. So one of the other things you mentioned was the level of depth that you were going into with meditation that got you to the point where when you were brought back into reality, you felt almost disassociated with it, which felt quite depressing. And as you mentioned, you felt like you wanted to end your life on a couple of occasions. How did you bring yourself out of that darkness?
Yeah, this is always a tough one. I think it's, because I speak to so many people who are in that place as well. But for me, the big thing was that I was, as you said, rightly said, I was in this spiritual place when I was meditating, which was so beautiful. And you come back to, earth, so to speak, and see the world as it is. And it can be really depressing, especially if you're that young. And if no one is teaching you otherwise, it can be very difficult. This is why it's good to have a proper meditation teacher, because if you don't, when you end up in that situation, you can easily go down the wrong path, like I almost did. So it got to a point where I was, that day, that fateful day almost, which, made me almost not be here, where I was sitting in the bathroom with a knife to my wrist, ready to just end my life. And it was just a thought popped into my head that just said, one more day. Just one more day. That's all you've got to do is just one more day. So I kind of halted what I was doing and thought, okay, do you know what? If things don't get better tomorrow, then that's it. Tomorrow's the day. So I did one more day and, I felt 0.001% better. For what reason, I don't know, but I did. And I was like, okay, cool. I'll give it one more day. And I kind of just took every day, one day at a time. So one of the things that was a challenge for me was at the Brahma Kumaris as well. I was very disillusioned by some of the stuff going on. So eventually I left that path and decided to create my own. And then I got exposed to a book called, don't know if you've ever heard of it, Conversations with God.
I've heard of the book. I've not read it.
So the gentleman who wrote that book, Neil Donald Walsh, he's actually written several books now. I think there was 22 at one point in the series. And the core three, book one, book two, book three, kind of even to this day, I've got it on Audible. Are kind of like my Bible. They're more like my Gita. I listen to them regularly. Every 3 to 6 months, I listen to them. It's about 30 hours of audio that I listen to over and over again. And that, for me, answered a lot of the questions that I had still from that organization. So it filled a lot of those gaps. But I think to your original question, I think it was partly that idea that, having a drive, that there's more, that there's, as a young man, probably needs a direction, a discipline. Like, I don't know about you, but I'm sure you're in the same boat. I don't really see like celebrities as my, I'm not a celebrity worshiper, but the people I do kind of not worship as such, but really look up to, the, people of the world, like the Dr. Peter Attias, the David Sinclairs, the Deepak Chopras, the Tony Robbins, the Jordan Petersons of the world, that kind of people, the people who challenge conventional thinking, the Simon Sinek's or whatever, or who challenge us to think bigger, to question the status quo and actually formulate our own hypothesis of what life should be like. And so I was complete high school dropout as well at the age of 15 because I just lost interest in school, so I didn't really go any further with education. So everything that I've learned has all been self-taught. I've been a voracious learner since then, it hasn't stopped, and I constantly listen to audiobooks. In fact, on the way here, I was listening to David Sinclair's book about, do you know David Sinclair?
Yep.
Yeah, listening to his book Lifespan, and and that's just the regular thing for me. Most people be jamming away to music. There's me with my little audiobooks in my car. But yeah, so for me, it's just the idea of, not the idea, but just that inner desire to learn, to strive to be better, the discipline to grow. That's kind of what drives me to this point.
Someone who's listening to this today, who's in that dark space that you're in, who maybe isn't hearing that voice saying one more day, what would you say to that person?
That's a very good question. I would say to them, one more day. I'd be the voice that I had, but they maybe don't have one more day. Just take one more day. There are good people out there. There's so many amazing people out there. It's very easy to get disillusioned with the world. Take dating, for example. Even today, message from someone just before I arrived. I'm so burned out by dating. I'm so disillusioned. I'm so frustrated. It's so easy to get down. But this is where having good people around you can make all the difference they can make or break us. Quick example, I did the London Marathon this year. It's my third one this year. And this year was obviously even busier than the previous two that I've done. It was crazy busy. Next year, they want to make it even bigger. But for that entire 26 miles, imagine just people on either side, just the whole way of the race with like fruit and sweets and encouraging that they have no clue who you are, but they're like, come on, Amit, come on. They see you running by with your name on your t-shirt. Come on, Amit. Come on, Peter. Come on, Frank, whatever, come on, Lucy. And you just see a completely different side to humanity. These people have been standing out for like 8-10 hours. No loss of enthusiasm. They're just there encouraging people. And with that day, obviously I was doing it for my brother-in-law, Akash, who passed at the beginning of the year and stuff. And so, it was just incredible to see all these people just there lining the paths, just cheering people on. So as much as we see all the crap that's going on in the world, doing something like that reminds us that there's incredible humanity, beauty, and just, wonderful people out there. So to that person, I say to you, look, I feel you. I've seen it firsthand. I've seen someone take their life in front of my eyes. I get it. Come talk to me. Before you do anything, let's have a conversation. Hey, if you're still convinced, I'll be there to hold your hand. But let's have a conversation first. Give it one more chance, one more day. What's the worst that could happen?
I love that. The London Marathon, which is an incredibly, I think any marathon, doesn't matter where you're doing it, is a hell of a task.
Yeah.
Okay. And you're someone who teaches people how to achieve what they might be seeing as incredibly difficult tasks when it comes to the dating world. Is there anything that the London Marathon, training for the London Marathon or going through the marathon, taught you that you would link back to your coaching people in dating aspect?
Yeah, absolutely. So I actually use that example sometimes, whether it's running, tennis, it doesn't matter. But so with regards to kind of like the analogy of dating and training, one thing I say to people actually when I'm coaching them is, look, I'm the kind of coach that if I'm teaching you something, I'm sharing something, I'm coaching you in something, I promise you this, I've either lived it or I'm doing it. I will not coach you on something I've never done, have no idea about, I've never done myself. That's 100% for certain. So, and yes, even if it's an analogous way, fair enough. I would definitely, it's got to be something I've been very close to or done almost. But this idea of, you know, for example, if you were to try and run a marathon tomorrow, would you be able to do it?
Not tomorrow. I mean, I might finish it, but it would be a hell of a struggle.
Yeah, exactly, right. And you never know, you may not, because if your body's not trained to go 26 miles, then you may easily sustain an injury or whatever. And that is analogous to what's happening to people in dating right now. They're not trained for it, so they get injured along the way, emotionally injured in this case, and they stumble and they have to give up, and then they do this thing that I call, they do yo-yo dating. So they kind of they'll go all in for a month or two, have some bad experiences, then they'll stop again, and they'll pause, and they'll be like, I'm burned out, I need to take a break, I need to quit. And they'll start again, and the cycle begins again and again and again. They just go through it, and then no wonder they're burned out, because to go through that cycle without growth is what really, makes us feel, almost helpless, almost like futile in a way. Because, if you want to do so, if you did 100 tennis lessons with the tennis coach and you didn't improve, you're going to feel disheartened, disillusioned. You're going to be like, I'm not doing this anymore. But if you saw improvement, you'd be like, yeah, I'm going to continue. Even if, when you go through a coaching journey on anything, whether it's tennis, badminton, you name it, doesn't matter. You're going to go through this little bit of a journey where you're going to peak, and then you're going to hit a plateau. You actually might sink for a little while, but then you're going to go up and hit another echelon, and then sink maybe a little bit and go up. And that's the way it's supposed to work. But if you're yo-yoing and you're doing this is where you're going to get burned out, you're going to get tired, you're going to get frustrated, and you're going to get depressed and lonely, and you're going to end up in a very dark spiral. So it's really important that taking the learnings of the marathon or anything that requires developing skill, that you need proper guidance, or talk to someone who's been there and done it. Then you're going to learn the actual ways of getting through those lulls or past certain hurdles, and then you're going to be able to achieve that end goal, cross the finish line. But if you don't, then, and that doesn't necessarily have to come in the form of hiring me as a coach. You don't have to pay me money. No, it's fine. If you want to, great. If you don't, no problem. But then at least read a good few books. There's a lovely lady, I saw her, I've forgotten, I think Logan Uri, her name is. She was on the Diary of a CEO podcast recently. Okay. She's a human behaviorist, and she's turned dating coach. And it was wicked. I saw the podcast. I was like, yes, this woman's pretty much said everything I say, which is great. It's great that I'm seeing a PhD scientist saying exactly what I say. So I know I'm on the right track. So anytime I have those imposter syndrome moments that I'm, not degree educated, whatever, I see this stuff and I think, yeah, there you go. Someone who's, been in this field a long time, knows what they're talking about, and she and I are on exactly the same page. So whether you listen to podcasts, read books, whatever, it doesn't matter. Grow, develop, try something new. The cards I created, use the tool, whatever it is, it doesn't matter. But grow, develop, learn from it, but don't go into the next day and the next day doing the same thing. And then, that very old saying that we all know, the definition of insanity is doing the same things over and over again, expecting different results. It's not going to happen.
So is there a formula that someone can follow to achieve success in dating?
Hell yes.
What is that formula?
Okay, so there's about 10 million ways I could go with this, right? There is a generic formula for everyone. Knowing that firstly, I mentioned it earlier, our brains are wired in a certain way. Women, for example, need, men need a little bit of pursuit, for example, but they don't want it to be so tough that they get burnt. Again, they get tired, they get frustrated, and you're not giving anything to them. It's like that once, they move forward 2 steps, you move to them 1. They move forward 2, you move 1. That enough level of pursuit that it makes it interesting for a guy, for example. I can see your lovely wife is here as well. Yeah. And I see a little bit of a smile, so I assume there was a little bit of pursuit on your behalf. Yes or no?
Definitely.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah. Right, so there we go. For a woman, though, see, I think men have a slight advantage in this area, full stop. Because since we're born, we're told women want this. They want flowers. They want this. They want that. They want we're told the full spectrum from get-go. When I ask women the question, what do you think a man wants? Blank faces. So women are actually less intelligent at dating than men are, because at least men have some idea. They know they've got to take the woman out on a date, whether they do or not. The things are a bit messy out there right now, but at least they have an idea. But when I ask women the question, okay, what do you think a man wants or needs from you? They're like, I don't know. They try and give me some ideas, and usually they're way off the mark. So one of the things, of course, is very simple things. If a guy is pursuing you, yes, you can play the game and you can do the whole, for example, showing appreciation, outward appreciation, saying, do you know, it's really nice that you took me for that date. I'm so appreciative. And then the way to play that game is that, if you say, oh, I really enjoyed, okay, we should go out again. Then her method of being playful, having the banter, the pursuit is, oh, we'll see. I don't know, let's see how it goes for the next day. Just playing, but playing a fun way. It's not a serious thing. It's in a fun way, but it's enough to make it interesting. You must have heard of the IKEA effect, right?
What's the IKEA effect?
So the reason why IKEA is so successful is this idea that the furniture that you buy at IKEA, of course, pretty much anyone can do it. Mm-hmm. But it's easy enough to assemble that anyone can do it, but hard enough where you feel satisfied when you've created it. At the end, you would Instagram that picture. Yeah. So it's that idea. That's the level it's got to be at. So that's one area of science. To take this at a whole deeper level, I did a whole video on this as well, the 6 things you need to know to find someone and create a happy relationship, right? So you and your wife could see how many things in this that you do as well. So the first thing is the 36 questions that were created by Arthur Aaron and his wife Elaine, right? So this was a methodology they created for people to bond. So when they did this experiment, they created this list of 36 questions that progressively get more emotionally intimate. And what they found is that when couples ask these questions to each other, these 36 questions, they almost sort of fell in love with each other. So whether that was romantic love or not, they fell in love in the sense of, oh, I really feel like I know this person. They fell in love with the character in front of them, the person. So if you really want to get to know someone, and again, this is quite a bad thing in, the South Asian sphere of dating, is that it's all about the aesthetics, the visuals over values. Are you in a secure job? Do you earn loads of money? Do you have your own property? It's more about what you bring as opposed to who you are. But if I ask people hypothetically, do you want someone who's beautiful and a bitch, or do you want someone who's average looking but has a hell of a character? Which are you going to pick?
Average looking, hell of a character.
Everyone's going to go for character over but the thing is, it's so easy to forget that you're going in programmed believing you need this security, the house, the good job, the doctor, this person who's, secure in their career. But, are they a good person? So first things first, you're going to know, are they a good character? So that's number one. Number two is the anxious avoidant loop. So this is a really big one. So obviously, a lot of people know about attachment styles, and the biggest one by far is the anxious avoidant loop. So you've got someone who's got very anxious attachment style. They will attract someone who's got an avoidant. The anxious is very reluctant to let down their barriers, to let this avoidant in. Eventually, they break because the avoidant is doing all sorts of things the right way. They're breadcrumbing. They're kind of doing everything they need to.
What's breadcrumbing?
It's kind of like saying that this person would need to hear in order for their barriers to break down, right? So they're leaving a trail of breadcrumbs enough so this person, the anxious, can then feel secure enough to let down their guard. So they've breadcrumbed them enough. And then once the avoidant is in there, things are good for the first couple of weeks, maybe a couple of months. But suddenly, as soon as things get serious, the avoidant pulls away. What does the anxious do? Pulls towards them. The avoidant pulls away even more. The anxious pulls towards them. And eventually you would lead in a situation where you get ghosting or anything like that, right? So it's completely ended. And then the anxious person always comes to me. Oh, things seem to be going really well. We're in our 3rd or 4th day. I don't know what happened. I feel like I've done something wrong. Something's gone wrong. But, they've kind of just, they always make it about them, that they've done something. That is the most common out of all the calls I get. That covers 80%. 8% of all the calls I get is that, the anxious avoidant loop. Number 3 and 4 are all about love languages. If you can understand someone's love language, the 5 languages of love by Gary Chapman. And then I created my own version of this, which is the 4 love languages of the soul. So women have 2, men have 2. Women need time and empathy. Men need space and appreciation. So that space element is where guys, when you're in a relationship and a guy pulls away, goes quiet, goes silent, it's good for the woman to know it doesn't mean he doesn't love you. his catharsis, his healing is space. So if you don't, as a woman, if you don't respect his space when he pulls away, he will start to feel resent. So it's up to a woman to remember that when a guy in any stage in the relationship, whether it's a year in, 10 years in, when he goes quiet or needs his man cave time, you leave him the fuck alone. Let him be. That is his space to recharge his batteries. If you pull towards him and say, what's wrong? Why are you not spending time with me? He will resent you. So you need to respect, in the same way that, for example, if you've had a hard day at work as a woman and you come home and you expect him to hear and listen to your problems, he'll be there. He'll be like, yeah, what happened, honey? Tell me about your day. That's him listening to your love languages and what you need, but you also need to respect his. And then number 5 is the Gottman Institute research. So the John and Julie Gottman doing the research about what's the statistics and what's the science show us about what constitutes a healthy relationship. And it's this idea of bids. So when they looked at the couples who got divorced within 2 years or the couples who got lasted longer than 2 years, the biggest difference was this idea of bids. So again, your wife is here today, so you can relate to this. So those moments when your wife is looking out the window, for example, she says, oh, look, check out that bird. What she's doing a bid. And if you ignore her, you're ignoring that bid. But if you say to her, oh, honey, yeah, that's lovely. That's so cool, isn't it? What beautiful color wings it has and blah, 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 whatever, right? You're answering her bid for attention. Couples who answered each other's bids for attention about 80% of the time had a very high chance of surviving past 2 years. The ones who only answered each other's bids 20 to 30% of the time, I think it was, I forget the exact numbers, usually got divorced within 2 years.
Interesting.
So yeah, it's a big one. And then last but not least is the 5 stages of relationships. And that's, again, it's a good one just to understand that your relationship goes through cycles within cycles. And when you understand that, and, rather than thinking there's a major problem in your relationship, you're probably just going through one of those stages. And again, if you can understand that, it'll make your life a lot easier. I know that was a big segment, a big chunk. So yeah, I'll pause there.
I'm just sitting here learning so much from you. So lots of key takeaways, actually. What is the reason that people struggle to keep their relationships? Because I feel like from what you've said, there's many ways that people can find or start a relationship. But really the issue is what's happening beyond the first 3 dates, the first 6 dates, maybe even sometimes the first 1, 2, or 3 years. And then things seem to break down and people get stuck in that cycle. Now, that's not been my case, but I know of a lot of people who have had that repeating cycle over and over again. What's the reason that people struggle to keep relationships flourishing?
So actually, that comes down to the 2 things I mentioned at the end there, number 5 and number 6. One is understanding this idea of bids. It's very easy to get complacent in a relationship, to want to lose the impetus to want to make effort, to continue to date, to cultivate and make that relationship flourish. Because there's a saying I have for people, which is there's a big difference between a wedding and a marriage. A wedding is a party for a day. So even in this context, if we're talking about a short-term relationship, or we're talking where they get to the wedding stage, the wedding is just, people confuse the two. So they get to the wedding, they're really excited. I'm getting married. Yeah, well, yeah, everyone's so excited. But then what happens after the wedding day? The reality of marriage and what a marriage is kicks in. So whether there is a wedding or not, let's say it's not a wedding, but maybe a couple are moving in together, or whatever the situation is, or things are getting just serious. Like you said, it could be after 6 dates and things are just getting serious. But then the reality for most people kicks in of now the effort needs to begin on both sides, both parts. Brene Brown puts it lovely. She says, it's not about 50-50, it's about 100-100. When her partner walks in the house and he's had a bad day, he'll just say, oh, I've only got 20% to give today. She's like, don't worry, I've got the other 80 for you. I got your back, don't worry about it. It's understanding our partners' little quirks, little nuances. My wife knows that, for example, I'm a snappy son of a gun, right? So she knows, she's, it's an area we're still learning, and she's recognized that when I'm in my little moods and I get, when that's, she wants something from me and I get, not now, honey, kind of thing, right? We all have that, right? So it's nothing personal about her. In fact, it's not even an issue in the relationship. It's just part of my personality, really, and who I am. It's something, yes, I need to work on. But it's the idea of once you get past that honeymoon stage, So as I mentioned, right, 5 and 6, so that when you learn the stages of a relationship and you get past that honeymoon stage into the disillusion phase where you start to see the reality of the person, the blinders fall off. The spark has faded at that point. All that beautiful chemistry you may have had in the beginning, for some people it can last a month, a week. Some people it lasts a year, 2 years. It's different for everyone. But once that comes off, once that spark or that chemistry is gone, if you didn't know or haven't learned how to cultivate or create a spark or create connection or create excitement, of course that relationship is not going to flourish. It's gonna fade. It's gonna wither. So you've got to learn those two key things. One being, how do you connect? How do you keep the connection going? How do you cultivate your relationship? How do you make it exciting, fun, whether it's the sex, whether it's the intimacy, the going out, the dating, everything, the full works, right? The emotional connection. If you don't learn that, then how are you ever going to keep the relationship going? And then the second thing is understanding those stages we all go through. When you've passed one stage, you're going to hit another, and you're going to hit another challenge. Are you equipped? Are you emotionally intelligent? Are you ready to equip yourself to get, not equipped, but are you emotionally ready to handle and deal with the challenges that are going to come your way?
So, what is the way that you maintain that spark, or how do you recreate that spark and that magic to keep the relationship flourishing? Is it awareness of like when you need to, for yourself, take that time into that man cave? By the way, if anyone's got a man cave creation business, we can use this as an ad for them.
Yeah.
So the perfect reason to go and create one. But is it that where you are aware of when you need to back off so you can come back with fresher energy? Or is it something else that you physically do? Or is it a combination of both?
So specifically me?
Yeah.
Oh yeah. I feel like I'm in that stage where I don't need too much time now to, be by myself or man cave. I've actually got in my office, if you come to my office in my house, there is actually a man cave sign that my wife has brought me.
Nice.
It's one of those ones I think she got me in Vegas or something. So I think I don't need it as much, but one thing I'll say about what I mentioned a minute ago, when I get snappy, I know that means I'm not enough meditating enough. Generally, that's always the sign for me. But
I can feel Krish looking at me.
yeah, yeah.
I resonate with that a lot.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, it's true. And again, that comes down to the self-awareness, right? Do you know your own quirks, your own flaws? It's one thing your partner knowing, but do you know? Do you know yourself? Are you aware of your own idiosyncrasies and, what makes you you? For me and my wife, I tell you one thing I'll say is that there's been, I would say, barely a single day that has gone by in our relationship where we haven't said we love each other, where we haven't made each other laugh. I don't think we've ever gone to bed angry at each other. We tend to resolve our disagreements, our, moments where we are, things get heated pretty quickly. Even our humor, if you were a fly on the wall in our house and you saw our sense of humor, you probably think we'd both need to be sectioned, but it's our sense of humor. It's no one else's business. It's just we're a bit nuts like that. Having a dog is a big boon as well, because it gives us something that we can't have. I can't have children, so we decided. Obviously, when we met, I told her like I can't have kids, so that's not an option for us. She was like, yeah, that's fine, it's not a problem. But she wasn't into dogs, but then she grew to love dogs, and then we got a dog, and he's our baby now, and we dote over him. And having a dog in the house as well just means that, again, all he's got to do is do one of his stupid little things that he does, his little quirky behaviors, and we just, even if we're having mid-fight, he'll just bark at us and laugh. Like, even if we are having a little bit of a fight, he'll kind of come in the middle of us and just kind of look at us and just go, do a stupid bark or a silly look, and it will just make us laugh and remind us that stop taking life so seriously. So we've kind of found our ways. It's been 9 years for us, and I'm not saying we know everything. I always ask couples, if I come across a couple who's been together 20 years, my first question is, so what's your secret? Well, how long have you guys been married, actually?
We've been married for 8.5 years now.
And together how long?
18.
That's you got 18 years, so I should be asking you. So what's your secret to a healthy relationship?
The secret is that it is hard as fuck. That's my understanding of what it takes to maintain a relationship. Because I think from people that we've spoken to, people that I know of, there's hundreds of reasons why you can end a relationship. Hundreds, maybe thousands.
Yeah.
But there's only one reason to continue a relationship, and that is if you both choose to want to continue that relationship. And if you both choose to want to continue, then you both are essentially making the decision and the choice that you are willing to put the effort in and the work required. That is the only way. In no way or form am I a dating or relationship expert. I can tell you that now, but that is just my experience.
But, you know, like, I think that's a beautiful sentiment, and it's so true. And I say to a lot of single people, if you think single life is hard, wait till you're in a real relationship. You know,
single life is much easier.
yeah, I would say so. I know, like, there's a lot of people out there, you know, you just scroll through TikTok for 10 minutes and you'll see, oh, single life, dating is so hard, dating is crazy. And, you know, maybe now's a good time to mention about, you know, apps and stuff like that. Because I think that, yes, they've changed the dating game. But what I will say, I'll just keep it really simple, this, Ben. Dating apps are just a tool. Simple. It's not that they've ruined dating. It's just that they're a tool and people have become too reliant on them. People have become too reliant on messaging. They've forgotten how to pick up the phone, have a phone call. And if I could just say one thing to guys, your job is onefold. It's so easy. Your job is simple. If you like a woman, your job is just to keep moving things forward. That's it. If you stagnate, which is what a lot of guys do on messages, they'll you know, do good morning, hey, beautiful, how are you? But they don't do anything about it. She's responding. She'll say, I'm good. You know, she's waiting for more. And this is that evolutionary thing that she's looking for. She's looking for, provider is almost not the right word. Yes, she does need a provider as well. Of course, she can provide for herself, but she also needs a provider in her life. What she's looking for is a decisive go-getter. You'll ask a woman this, what do you find attractive? She'll always say ambition, but it's not ambition. It's the ambition backed up by action that impresses her, that makes her feel attraction to the guy, to the person in front of her. So apps is not the problem. You've just become lazy in the way you date. And because of that, apps have caused you a big hurdle, but it doesn't need to be. If I was in an app, my goal was simple. This is how I did it with my wife. She doesn't like me telling this, but I'm going to tell it anyway. We met on Tinder. We actually met on Tinder. We used to tell people we met on Facebook. She didn't like the whole app thing, but yeah. So sorry, honey. Sorry, darling. We actually met on Tinder. Funny enough, right? So my goal was always to get the woman's number within 15 minutes. I got hers within 5. So it was actually one of my personal bests at that point in time. Within an hour, we were on the phone. On that phone call, we arranged our first date. On that first date, we arranged our second date. We had our first 3 dates in the first week. We had 12 dates in the first month. On our 1 month anniversary, she took me to a football game. That was my first ever one. And then after that point, we were kind of like, we were both all in, and, you know, the rest is history kind of thing. I proposed 11 months later, a year later, we're married. So it's the idea that for guys, your job is very simple. Keep moving things forward. Now, this is where women mentioned earlier about women not knowing what to do. And so women have and I've made this my science now. I hope this is what one of the things people remember me for when I'm no longer here. Ladies, you've got a simple job to do. You've got a very simple job. Your job is to prompt him and enable him. Say, for example, you are in a text exchange with a guy and you're waiting for him to ask you out, but he isn't. That could be because, obviously, with this whole Me Too movement and other things, not just that, but other things that have gone on, the nice guys have held back even more. The nasty guys have gone all out, and they're, you know, the guys who are complete, and I hope I can swear on your podcast,
yeah,
the boys who are complete and utter fuck boys, they've just gone all in now and just don't hold back anymore. But the nice guys have really sunken back and they don't know what to do anymore. So they need to be just enabled so they know they can take the next step. So as a woman, you're messaging. If it's nice and pleasant, this is the exact message you send, and this is the blanket message for the entire relationship. So you would say to the guy, for example, I've really enjoyed this, so show appreciation. I've really enjoyed this conversation, Dips. You know, it's been lovely. If you were to ask me out ask my number, I wouldn't say no. So the guy knows. He's been prompted. And every time I do this with a woman and physically I'll write it on their phone for them, they send it. And he's like, okay, cool. Yeah, sure. Great. What's your number? And they get shocked at what happens next. They're like, really? I remember this one story. It was I was with a friend in a car. She was like, "Oh, just chatting to this other guy. It just feels like it's going to turn into another text ping pong. Nothing's happening. What do I do?" I was like, "Give me your damn phone, woman." Sent her this message. I said, "Look, whatever his name was, you know what? It's been lovely getting to know you, but just a reminder, I'm not here to be anyone's text pen pal. If you're willing to get to know me, take me, for us to go out, I'm all ears. If not, I wish you all the best." He called her within 10 minutes. I predicted 2 hours. He called her within 15 minutes. I predicted 2 hours. He called her. So because she just enabled him, she prompted him, he did the work. That was it. And that one sentence, by the way, so I'll just finish on this. The one sentence is all a woman needs for the entire relationship. If you were to ask me out on a second date, I wouldn't say no. If you were to ask me to marry you, I won't say no. Just drop those hints. Honestly, I'm telling every woman out there, this is the secret. You need this one line for your entire relationship, and you will be okay.
You make it sound so simple, and it just reminds me of like those Instagram posts from back in the day where it just goes, "Men are not mind readers."
Yeah.
If you just give them an idea of what it is you want, they'll do it.
Yeah.
So there you go. You've heard it here today.
Yeah.
This is how women listening to this podcast can help a potential pursuit progress just by dropping in those additional hints.
That's it.
I love that. Has your career as a radio presenter, I'm conscious of time, but I want to just ask on this point, has your career as a radio presenter helped you with your confidence in speaking to women and getting yourself out there as someone who was dating pre, obviously being married?
Yeah, so it has, but I don't know if you know this as well. So I did stand-up comedy as well. So at the same time that I started to learn
I didn't
dating,
know about the stand-up comedy.
No, I'll send you some of my clips. Like, obviously, I don't do it now, but so at the same time I started learning dating, I actually went to Toastmasters. Found it really slow and really boring. You ever heard that quote by Bill Gates? Like, if I ever need something really difficult done, I give it to the lazy person because they'll always find the shortcut to do it. I'm that lazy person. Toastmasters was too long and laborious for me, so I thought I need the shortcut. How do I learn speaking the shortcut way? And I thought, okay, comedy, let's try it. So I got a couple of books on comedy, learned. I was coaching someone not on dating at the time, wanted to be was a budding comedian. Great guy. His name's Hyde, by the way. Check him out. I think he's taking a bit of a break from comedy, but a lovely guy. Wanted to be a comedian, so I encouraged him. I said, when you do your own gig, forget about breaking anyone else, do your own gig. He was like, yeah, all right, let's do it. And then he invited me to come along and do the comedy gig with him. I was like, me being the type of person I was, I did it without even thinking. My mouth engaged before my great brain did. Yeah, why not? I was not a funny person. Debatable now whether I am or not as well. But still, I think I was less funny then. And so we did a trial gig. We did with about 15, 20 friends. Hyde, the British Russell Peters, such a great guy. I did it. I got one laugh in 11 minutes of material. So I went away, learned. I was doing radio. I started radio probably about 2002-ish. And it was great. But that for me was the big page turner where I, really got to grips with speaking to people, being a bit more engaging, a bit more dynamic. I think I'm still an amateur at all that kind of stuff. Speaking, I've got a long way to go. I don't know if you know Vin Klang on. I watch a lot of his videos as well and try and learn from him.
Vin's a genius as well.
He's brilliant. I love it. Everything he says, I can relate to dating as well. Yeah. And I do some of that as well. I take some of what he says and apply it back to dating for people. So both the radio and comedy were a big part of that helped me overcome some, and speaking was a huge fear for me, still is. It's like Jimmy Carr talks about it. He says even now when he goes up on stage, he still has that immense fear. But that's a beautiful thing. It's great. It means you care about it. You love it. It means something to you. So for me, absolutely love it. But those two in parity together helped build my confidence.
Bring you out your shell.
Yeah.
And this is going back to what you said, which is just try new things because it's going to take you out that comfort zone as well.
Exactly.
There's something that you said on your social media a while back, which was chasing has a low frequency that pushes people away.
Yeah.
Resonate higher to attract better. In one sentence, how can someone resonate higher?
God, your questions are good today, especially on the spot. First things first is that, I don't know if you saw, I put up a quote recently as well. I took it from someone else's actually, but it was about be the buyer, not the seller. Mm-hmm. And I think that mentality that is associated with the anxious attachment style is what keeps us in a very low vibrational state. You're constantly chasing people instead of thinking of yourself as someone who is worthy to be attained. It doesn't mean you go to the narcissistic level, but you are worthy to be attained. You're a good person. You're a wonderful human being. You need to, when you go on a date, don't, unless you know how to use deprecating humor, don't do it. Don't put yourself down. It's very unattractive, but it does also lower your vibration too. If I came, would you invite me on your podcast if I was, I'm not a very good dating coach? No, are you going to
It's a
invite?
different vibe entirely.
Exactly. That's not attractive. So start by, when I coach women and men, one of the first exercises I do, and this I did this for myself, by the way, in 2008. I used to see myself as someone not attractive. And then I started practicing in the mirror, seeing myself as kind of like a James Bond-esque debonair type of character, looking in the mirror going, yo, you're looking good today. How you doing? Being the Joey type character, all that kind of stuff. I look in the mirror, I do this kind of affirmations and all that kind of stuff. James Bond, yes, much money paid. You're looking great. Whatever what
Bit
it
of
was.
Sean Connery coming.
Yeah, it didn't matter what I was doing, but so long as I felt good, I felt in a high vibe state, I kept doing it.
I love that.
Great, simple way to do it. I say to everyone, when I coach people, I say, you can work inside out, outside in. This is one of the outside in methods. In the mirror, you're at home, no one's around, do it. Pretend. Tell yourself how sexy you look. Tell yourself how good you look. Tell yourself how amazing you are. Because most people, especially those who have an anxious attachment style, are always putting themselves down. So start by telling yourself the opposite. What you say, every word you think is a thought of prayer, is a thought of creation. Every time you're putting yourself down, you're creating that. It's time to switch it. Say you're amazing. Say how sexy you look. Say, you're looking so, you're looking so good. I could just sleep with myself. It doesn't matter what you say. It doesn't, you smiled. If you did that in the mirror, you'd be smiling at yourself too, and you just feel good. So you've got to think of it from that place and raise your vibe. Go on a date with that level of energy, you're golden.
I love that. And I think that for especially like a South Asian community, like just growing up as an Indian kid, you're kind of taught to just either blend in or be quiet or just do what other people expect of you. And it's very rare to take that approach and big yourself up to that level of how you're just describing as well. So it's definitely a powerful practice. Amit, I've loved this conversation. We're actually going to have to do a second podcast just to talk about creation and manifestation and all that stuff, because I know that that's a big part of
definitely
who you are as well. But to finish off this episode, for my final 4 questions, quick fire round, 1 or 2 words on each question. What's the one skill that you think is essential for someone to be able to succeed in today's world?
Love yourself.
I love that. Excellent. What's the most impactful book or movie that's had a profound shift or change in your life?
Definitely Conversations with God for book. For movie, The Princess Bride.
Really?
It's a weird one, I know, but I love it.
Fair enough. One reason why that movie?
It turned me into a hopeless romantic, which was not necessarily a good thing, but I think it was just a beautiful story that I loved. It was fun. It was amazing.
Amazing. This podcast is called The Mindful Creator. What does being mindful mean to you?
I'd give it a new definition: metacognition. Understand your thought behind your thought, and that you are not the thought. You are not even the thought behind the thought.
We need to book in that second podcast date as soon as we finish and wrap this up, because that I really want to go deeper into as well. I love that. And last question for today. What's the one positive message that you would like to share with everyone listening today?
Dating can be really easy. We've made it difficult. All you've got to learn is a few basic skills. Like I said, for guys, most important one is keep moving forward. If you like her, but you're not sure how she feels, keep going until she says no. If she says she's not interested, fair enough. You don't have to worry about whether she likes you. And I always tell the story that so many couples out there, I know they didn't even like each other on the first date. And this is so true. I mean, I don't know about what your story was, but so many of the happiest couples I know didn't even think it would go beyond the first date. Now, let's say they not that they didn't like each other, but didn't think it would go beyond the first date. But they're married with kids now. So as a guy, your job is just to keep moving things forward. As a woman, your job is to enable and prompt. bring these two things together, you will never, ever struggle in dating.
Amit Sodha, the Love Doctor. Thank
Yes,
you so
indeed.
much.
Thank you. No, thanks for having me, man. It's been an absolute pleasure.